Greetings and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. I'm guided by Spirit. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. Disclaimer: all cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. Alright, in this episode, I don't know why that law keeps happening. In this episode, Mendez Family Murders. And of course, in recent couple of weeks, there's been an appeal or some kind of process to set them free. I'm not going to get into the legal jargon. But while looking at the numbers, I wonder who was the main target during that unfortunate evening. And of course, most of us will know the case. If you're not familiar, if you're not familiar with the case, just a brief outline. Two brothers take out their parents one deadly evening. And according to the narrative, I haven't watched the recent Netflix documentary or series. I've actually done very little on this case in the past, except I know the basics. This is the first time that I'm actually going to be looking at it properly. Interesting that the two boys decided to use the narrative of being abused by their father. So what I'm going to do in this episode, I'm going to look at the family and do a overview with them to see who they really are, and then we'll have a look at how that impacts on that fateful evening. So the Mendez family, now the bit of research that I've done now for this episode is just to see, it wasn't the intention, but a bit of a background of how they all came together, and that is, of course, the father, Jose, came to America and, as the saying goes, living the American dream, builds himself up, becomes an accountant, executive, works for big corporations, of course, gets married to, commonly known as Kitty Mendez. And of course, like all families, they want to start a family, but unfortunately in this case, they produced two rotten apples. So let's have a look here. So let's look at Jose, because the accusation is that he is a physical abuser or abuser. And I must tell you, looking at his date of birth, I find that very difficult to believe. And just before we get going, both parents do not have abuse numbers, and the main abuse number would be the number 4. The number 4 brings around issues of abuse, particularly when you're dealing with physical abuse, sexual abuse, even mental abuse and financial abuse. 4 would be the main number. Of course, there are other contributing numbers, but the main is 4. And in both cases, Jose and Mary don't have 4s. So what is going on here? Let's see who these people really were. So we look at Jose. Now, the 11-2 in the middle of the day is actually a very legal number, law-abiding. 18-9, of course, we know at some point he worked in the music industry, so there comes those numbers, 18-9. He has a 29-11-2, 20-11-2. So by all accounts, in the positive aspects, this guy is effectively law-abiding, family-orientated with 20 outcome 2. But in my opinion, he doesn't have out-and-out numbers that would suggest abuse. Okay, that's one thing. When we look at Mary, in fact, there's two things about Mary. Okay, and this is why I personally believe, and I'll show you in the numbers, that Mary was the actual target first. Yes, both parents, but Mary. And I've got your main target, Mary, secondary target. So let's have a look at what's wrong, or what potentially caused Mary to be the main target. So Mary has 3 6s here, 3 times 15, 6. Now this is where a lot of, I won't say abuse. In fact, I don't believe it was abuse. What we have here is a woman, Mary, who is, I would go to the lengths of saying she was a perfectionist. She was highly OCD. I haven't done any research into her. But with all these 6s comes around with OCD elements, stress, frustration. She's always hyper. And with the combination of the 39, 12, 3, all these 3s here. Now, let's just look on one hand. Having the outcome 3 in the date of birth speaks about the homemaker. Speaks about the home. She can, with the 30 outcome 3, can speak about the matriarch. So in my opinion, with these dominant 3s and 6s, makes Mary the boss of the house, in my opinion. The saying, the woman is wearing the pants in the house, and I believe this is the case here. Because with these 15 6s and the 39, 12, 3, this is a very, let's say on an extreme level, very controlling, very particular in how she does things, how she wants things. And of course, with all these 6s, she'll be driving these boys as much as the husband. I mean, he's no slouch as well, don't get me wrong. But according to the narrative, when the first boy was born, she quit her job to run the family. And with these numbers here, she ran that household for sure, without a doubt. Okay. Joseph, the younger of the 2 boys, or the older, beg your pardon, we note that he has, let's look at the comparisons here. He has an 11-2 in the middle of the day, which pings directly on his father, 11-2. So what does that mean? It means that when they together, they're almost looking at each other. They're looking at the same person with the 11-2s, very similar. Not entirely, but when they look at each other, it's almost like Joseph being the firstborn, Lyle, is reflecting his father, and his father reflects the son. Okay? With all these 8s here, makes him can be very aggressive. Violently so. Now, interestingly, Joseph was born 1968, which brings around the 24-6. Now, interestingly, in fact, let's make them different colors for the father and the mother. So with them, we'll make yellow for the mom. So with Joseph having a 24-6 in the year that he's born, and we note that Mary has a 24-6 year hidden, which ultimately means that Joseph and Mary, sounds a little bit biblical, are karmically connected. They both, well, let's put it this way. Joseph came into this world karmically connected to his mother, 24-6 match. If one of them has a common number in the year and one other, it means karmic relationship. Interestingly, when we look at Eric, he's born in 1970. He has the 17-8, so we'll use a different color here. He is connected to his brother, karmically. His brother has a 17-8. So the 2 boys are karmically connected. And that gives the outcome that they are close together, They do things together. They are connected. So obviously, in terms of their, and we can go finite, but in terms of their connection, there's their karmic link. Of course, Eric, also born in November, gives him the 11-2, so that pings on his dad as well. And 11-2s on one hand can be tough. I mean, it's a power number. It is a very good business number. And it also brings around the issue of 50-50. Are they going to get along or not? So let's have a look here as well. Interestingly, Eric, who is born on the 27th, will play a significant role just now, because the year that the crime takes place in is a 27-9 as well. So let's have a look here with Eric as well. He has the 11-2s, 22. I'm just going to move this down a bit. And the 11-2. So he's actually very much connected to his father as well. Not karmically, but is a reflection of his father as well. So both boys, I won't call it abuse. And of course, I'm not there, I haven't been there. But the sense I'm getting is that both parents were putting pressure on the boys rather to be successful and succeed. I believe this bullshit about the abuse is nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. Both parents don't have out-and-out abusive numbers here at all, in my opinion. So we see that both boys are connected to the father quite dramatically, actually, the 11-2 sitting in the day as well as the outcome. So the two boys are very connected to the father. And of course, there's obviously Jose, living the American dream. He worked hard for what he achieved. And then you have these two lazy arseholes that think life is just on a platter for them. So connections everywhere with the boys. Let's just see what connections they have with the mom. So of course we said Lyle has the connection with the 24-6 and the 6s as well. It doesn't look like Eric has many matches with his mom, actually. As far as I can see, there are no matches. Interesting. So we see the outcome of Eric. 55, 10, 1, 46, 10, 1, 37, 10, 1, etc. all the way to 10, 1, 1. So interesting that the boys are very connected karmically, huh? Very interesting. I didn't see that before. Now, let's go to the night of the incident. And we've got their dates of births here. Now, on the evening of August the 20th, we see the numbers 28, 10, 1. So the 28, 10, 1 brings around, obviously there's arguments and heat in the house. It also pings directly on Eric. You'll see the 27-9 that I mentioned pings directly on Eric. And the whole fateful event, all the numbers ping on Eric. So who had the issue here? Eric. Eric had the issue. Now, what concerns me, and this is why I believe the narrative that the father was abusing them is bullshit, and I'll show you why. So the event takes place in the evening. Right here. Okay. Now, because it happens in the evening, we got to tag through. Now, because it happens in the evening, we got to tag through. And what do we start seeing? So I can tell you now already, of course, with this 20 outcome 2, there's a lot of emotions going on here. There's high tension. High tension. 20 outcome 2 pings both on Eric as well as his father. Now, when so we're in the crime scene now, right? Who's here? 21-3. Look at that. That, for me, tells me who the main target was. 21-3. So the bullshit about abuse and killing the father, because I read now in some of the Wikipedia info, and it shouldn't always be trusted, that Mary was crawling away from the scene, but she had been shot the most. Mary had been shot the most. So what does that tell you? Where was the anger being pointed at? And we see this outcome 29-11-2, and that's been popping up recently actually. That we have this ghastly murder. And even then, so we got 21-3 first. Then, of course, the cumulative effect of the murder, but here's the cumulative effect here. 29-11-2. So who was second? 29-11-2. 29-11-2. So from my side, I'm saying the story about the abuse is bullshit. The primary target was the mother. Here's it here. And in my opinion, Eric was the lead on this situation. Eric is the instigator here, in my opinion. Impacts Eric. I believe Eric was the main gunman. And of course, now we start seeing all of this impact here. Impacts obviously on the father. A law has been broken. And in fact, this event would have impacted Joseph internally. And again, with that 11-2, it tells me that the story is bullshit. Look at this 29-11-2 in the middle of Eric here. My God. Eric was the main one. Eric was the perpetrator. Supported or Joseph watching in the background, however that went down. But I can tell you now, whatever went down impacted him directly. 11-2. It impacted him. It wasn't him involved, per se. Eric is the main guy, and in my opinion, the main target was Kitty. So for me, the story about who's to blame and what went down after their father and mother gave them the fortitude of the life they could live. Pigs, man. Pigs. So, in my opinion, I don't believe their story one bit. So, I obviously haven't gone in too much of the legal side of it in terms of what does this appeal mean or what does this mean? I can tell you now, in my opinion, this was a ruthless, calculated murder, of course, obviously. But the information shown me here is not what the narrative was or is currently. And in my opinion, the parents don't have abusive numbers. Mary, Kitty, might have over-controlling numbers. On one hand, we can say she was a present mother. She was doing her job, as it were, in inverted commas. We're going back in the day, right? She left her job to look after the kids, and she took it seriously. And I would say that perhaps her over-controllingness, her OCD side, perfectionist, all that kind of stuff would have pissed these guys off. In fact, all three men, or the two boys and the men and the father, all have 11:02 in the middle of the day. So in my opinion, these two lazy arseholes living the good life, committing crime as well apparently, thought they can live a bigger life by getting rid of their parents. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a snarky comment there, but come on. And now they want to get off for free or get off for the rest of their life. Please leave your comments in the description. I do love engaging with them. Stay safe, stay alert. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.